We are now into the lunchtime plenary. Our next panel, Choose Forward, Choose Inclusion, Choose Growing Together. Now, if you've got any questions for the panelists, again, put them under the sessions Q&A tab. I've been keeping an eye on the breakout sessions from before, and it's great to see discussions emerging there as well. That's what it is all about. The Dynamo team as well will gather those for our chair. Talking of which, for this panel, it is Fareeha Usman. Fareeha is one of those people that, frankly, you're glad exists, as well as having her own very personal and very harrowing story to tell. This actually built her foundations as a human rights activist. She started a new chapter when she moved up to Northumberland with a young family. I believe it was from seeing an episode of Location, Location, Location. It was tempted in by the beaches. So we are glad that you are here. As a woman of Pakistani heritage living in a predominantly white county though, Fareeha ended up founding the Being Woman charity, and it is a charity now, to help empower other women through digital and social exclusion. Now, gender equality is central to her beliefs, as is getting both men and women, it's not just about women, but men also, to challenge all types of prejudice. It's going to be a better life for everyone. We know that. Now, the pandemic threw up particular new challenges, and again, Fareeha adapted with a clear vision, whether it was families ordering food or supplies, volunteers collecting and packing food parcels, staff maintaining records. The thing was, everything should be just a click away. So technology, once again, as we've heard repeatedly today, being used as a tool to change and potentially save lives. Now, Fareeha is also Dynamo's EDI lead. She's been involved in some fascinating, if, as I've heard, at times stark research about true diversity in the Northeast. So I'm sure we'll hear much more about that alongside the rest of the panel, who are Antonio Sangunji, who's a student at Northumbria University, Annie Topping as well, Executive Director of Nursing, Quality and Patient Safety at the NHS Northumberland CCG. Hello to you all there. And Jan Madden, who is Workplace Mental Health Expert and also Programme Director at Rebalance. Hello to you. And we have Jennifer Calland as well, Platform Engineer at CTS. You're all there. Great. It's over to you then. Fareeha Usman for the panel Choose Forward, Choose Inclusion and Choose Growing Together.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Kem Cho. Welcome to Dynamo 21. Tech leads the way in a challenging world. First of all, I'm quite, I'm blushing right now with the Charlie's introduction. I wasn't expecting that. So thank you very, very much for acknowledging diversity. And I think this is the start when you acknowledge other people. So thank you very much. As you all know, first of all, before we start this amazing discussion, I want to recognize all those at the forefront of the fight against COVID, especially NHS England still. I also would like to acknowledge the loved ones we have lost for the war of COVID. And I want to say thank you to everyone who have supported us, who have supported Dynamo Northeast, and also have supported everyone throughout the country to remain positive during the fight of this pandemic. We're still very positive. So let's start. As you all can see, the title, Choose Forward, Choose Inclusion, Choose Growing Together. This is something why we have named this conference, or why we have named this panel today, is because we believe it is us where the change starts from. We talk about diversity, inclusion, equality, but are we actually promoting it ourselves? Are we actually taking steps to promote it as well? So before we start, we have an amazing and a great panel today, a diverse panel, and I'm very proud to say that we have quite a diverse panel today, who is going to be joining us with this discussion. We'll also have some polls throughout, so please keep an eye and do participate. I also want to say a huge thank you to our amazing technical team, especially Claire Nicholson, who's been so supportive in doing all this and managing. So it's not only my effort, it's a team effort. Let's start this, and I would like our panel to introduce ourselves. I will I'll head first to Antonio Sangunji. Antonio, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Antonio Sangunji, originally from Namibia. I'm a student as well at Northumbria University doing my PhD in entrepreneurship. And I'm a volunteer with Fareeha, who is the founder at Beam Women, where we try to put inclusion in the community, Northumberland. I live in Ashington, just up Northumberland. Yeah, that's basically me.
Thank you, Antonio. And if I can hear some speaking or any noises, so when you are not speaking, anyone, if you would like to mute yourself so we can hear the other speakers. So thank you very much. Let's head to Annie Topping.
Everybody, my name is Annie Topping. I'm a nurse, and I'm currently the Executive Director of Nursing Quality and Patient Safety at Northumberland Clinical Commissioning Group. And 2 days a week, I'm currently working with the North East and Yorkshire region, NHS England and Improvement, as their regional lead for something called the Chief Nursing Officer Ethnic Minority Action Plan. And part of it is very much about promoting equality, diversity of nurses from all backgrounds in terms of career progressions and retentions and recruitment. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion today, really. Good to meet you all.
Thank you, Annie. John?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming along and listening to us all talk. So my name is John Madden. I'm a founder and director of an organisation called Rebalance. Quite simply, we're an inequalities organisation, so we work globally to readdress and shift to rebalance inequalities, whether that be around health, financial inequality, sexual discrimination, and every other area of equality, diversity and inclusion. My background is working in mental health and mental health services, and also working with corporate organisations to create mentally healthy workplaces. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John. And lastly, but not the least, Jen.
Thank you for having me on. I'm Jennifer Calland. I am a tech returner, if you will, after having a 10-year space in my CV, gap in my CV due to parent caring responsibilities. And I recently returned back to a career in technology last September during pandemic at CTS. I'm now a platform engineer and I'm moving to a data analytics role.
Thank you so much, Jen. And thank you everyone for a lovely introduction. As you can see from the title of this panel, I would like to just shed some light that we all have the power to choose the type of life we want. And I think we all can agree with this. We aren't a victim of bad circumstances, bad luck, or bad childhood. Instead, we can take control and we can create whatever type of life we want. Like we choose where to live, like I have chosen to live in Northumberland in Northeast. We choose how to behave. We can't control everything, but we choose where to go, we choose where to live, we choose to work hard. So why not till today we have chosen inclusion? This is something that we all have to think, and we will be talking about today in Northeast tech sector, especially because this is where we are focused on, that why there is so much less diversity that we see. What is it that is contributing to it? So I would like to ask and go towards Annie Topping first, that why do you think, Annie, that you can see, obviously you've been living in Northeast, you are contributing a lot toward NHS England and are also championing promote equality, diversity, inclusion. What do you see are the factors that contribute to the less diverse people entering into the tech sector in Northeast? Or in any sector in Northeast generally? You are on mute, Annie. Sorry.
Yes, I think first of all, I think North is comparatively to the rest of the country, we have sort of smaller numbers of people from a diverse background. So I think that probably have contributed in terms of the overall numbers actually in the tech sector as well as in the health sector that I'm actually looking at right now. And I think that from then on, and probably because our numbers are small, so it kind of almost like we're easily being forgotten as a group. And how I turn it around is that actually because the numbers of ethnic minorities, from diverse background in the Northeast is small. So therefore, it's actually more even important to make sure that they have a voice and they have the career progression and so on. And I think the other sort of kind of characteristic that happen in NHS and nursing, and I'm sure in this tech sector, is about the natural progression, that kind of career path to actually allow people to actually sort of kind of really have a career, be the role model. And I think all those sort of kind of things actually by default doesn't actually encourage people to enter the sector, because when I was a nurse, I definitely don't see people that look like me, sound like me at the level. It doesn't give me the inspiration and aspiration and ambition, if you like. And I don't know whether other speakers actually felt the same, and yourself, Fareeha, you feel the same actually.
Thank you so much, Annie. I totally agree with you, because when we hear the word diversity, we think of race and culture. We automatically think, okay, we are talking about race, color, or culture. Of course, when speaking about the diversity of ethnicity, race and culture are the key aspects, but diversity is much broader. And this is the take of what Dynamo, my role at Dynamo is, that I would like to ensure that all of the people who are covered under protected characteristics, and much broader than that, we speak about them. We speak about gender, we speak about color, we speak about race, we speak about disabilities, we speak about neurodiversity, we speak about LGBTQ, everyone, because it's so much percepted around color and race. And this leads me to my next question to John. Obviously, in your opinion, you are a leader and you are leading a team. What do you think when it comes to equality and inclusion? How do you shape up an environment, a safe working environment, where people from all protected characteristics and specifically from diverse backgrounds know that their value, their inputs and ideas are valued and they retain there?
Okay, that's a big question. I'll do my best on it. So I think it's worth recognizing that I don't live in your fabulous part of the world. I'm down in the southeast, but we work globally, and I think one of the things with all of the differences and the beautiful wonderfulness of richness of human is that there are a lot of similarities as well. And when we look at communities which aren't necessarily represented in all the different areas, whether that's our institutions, whether that's our education establishments, whether that's our businesses, whether that's our services in terms of health, like Annie was talking to, we see a number of key themes that run through. So I can certainly talk to those in response to your question. I think if we take a bit of a step back, for me, the context is quite important. So over the last 12, 14, 16 months, we lived in a very different way. Because of that, people have maybe felt a little bit more of a sense of solidarity, of community, of companionship, of awareness of others as well. And we saw a huge outpouring, and rightly so, of solidarity, particularly around the Black Lives Matter movement and particular incidents that have happened, particularly around certain parts of our community, so maybe towards the Me Too movement, or towards the LGBTQ plus community with the Pride Month. So there's these various moments where people, it feels, have really galvanized more than before. And lots of leaders, lots of organizations have stepped forward and shown their solidarity. What we're now finding is that people are in a position where actually they're now having to follow through on that. And that can be a lack of resource, that can be a lack of understanding, that can be a lack of really knowledge of how to step forward and how to create these inclusive environments that you're talking about as well. And I think if we look at this as any other business agenda, then we can start to peel back and see it for to some extent, how we can apply the existing business acumen, knowledge and experience and skills we have to this agenda as well. So I think we look around at our communities. We look internally, our own community, and we look externally at the community that we're based in, and we start to see the demographics that are there. And wherever we see inequality, wherever we see a mismatch, a lack of balance, then that's where we focus our resources and our time and our energy. If we look at our own community within our business and we see that actually we have fewer numbers of women, or we have fewer numbers of people who identify as Black or minority ethnic, or fewer parts of different communities, then we need to start asking the questions as to why, start opening communication channels with those communities and starting to open up ways that we can engage and work there. I think just simply maybe putting a solidarity statement on social media or saying that we have a diversity and inclusion policy isn't going to make me or anybody else who identifies in a certain way apply for a certain role. So I think that's the first piece. Start talking to your community and start finding out why there's no communication going on, there's no interaction. I think the second thing is to have a strategy to this. It's all very well having statements and ambition, but we need to plan. So make sure this is a boardroom agenda. The organizations that we work with, and I work mostly with sort of large global corporates, so the sort of Deloittes and the Allen and Overys and the Microsofts of the world. They're the great thinkers, whether it's in those organizations or smaller, more localized organizations, are those that are willing to give the time and business thinking, business acumen to this. So make it a progressive boardroom agenda, make it there for you to see, put some milestones to it, put some resource to it, make sure that your senior sponsor is someone who's really going to see this through. And again, it's not being seen as a tick box exercise. And then I think the third piece is around setting in some metrics to actually show what is being achieved here. So actually set some targets for yourselves, drive that through, because fortunately or unfortunately, in most organisations, what gets measured gets done. So make sure that everyone can take ownership for this and see that in some way. Make sure that we're all really clear about what we're travelling towards, and making sure that we're all literate about talking about this. So we can say the words diversity and inclusion, but what does that actually mean? What does that mean to someone who's been in business and maybe identifies as a white middle-aged male, cisgendered? What does that actually mean to them? So we have to do something around actually making ourselves emotionally literate and being able to talk openly, compassionately, and coherently around the diversity and inclusion agenda. So yes, those three things: talk to your community, make sure you've got good metrics in place so you all know where you're, what the journey looks like, and make sure this is a boardroom agenda so we keep it going and it's not just a flash in the pan. Fareeha, I think you're on mute, if I'm not mistaken.
I said thank you so much, John. You've actually compiled everything, and it's like you have actually told the recipe to the Northeast. You know, it's like it was like a recipe: do this, and that. And I think I agree with so many of the points, because when we talk about diversity and inclusion, these two words are very bigger. Do we really know about it, or are we still happy with seeing diverse pictures on the billboards? But do they actually exist in our communities? Do that actually happen? Because this is something that we'll be focusing today in, and there's also going to be a poll question coming up. We are very focused on diversity in thinking, diversity in visuals. This is something that we would like our audience to tell us as well. This is going to lead me to another question for Antonio. Antonio, you come from an ethnic community, and obviously you're new to the country, you're new to the Northeast. Have you ever felt underrepresented? Do you see that? Have you ever felt loneliness? Do you find it difficult to explain yourself?
Yeah, Fareeha, yes. Like especially coming from an African continent, arriving in the UK, then studying, etc. Yeah, it was really difficult. It was difficult because, just like Annie said, you know, especially when you join organizations and you join businesses, etc., you hardly find people that look like you. And then just that, especially looking at the management side, you know, you're a brilliant person, you have ideas, you want to implement it, but if you are not represented at that level, at the decision-making area, it becomes a big challenge because you have those ideas, but once you want, there is no platform for you to be able to voice them. So it was that challenge. But on the positive side as well, I always look at it sometimes when being the first, then, and especially when people are there, you'll be able to tell them, this is more or less my idea. And then if they're able to integrate that, then you become kind of the first person to be able to implement. Because I believe that sometimes people don't know. Yeah, just like Jen said, they are not educated, you know. And from my experience, I just know that sometimes we are afraid of change. Anything that's new, we tend to say no, you know, let's have a look at it and so forth. But once you are in that area of change where you can speak and people are educated about inclusion and diversity, because for me, I look at it like equality and diversity is two different things, or equality and, you know, equity, they are two different things. So most of the time I see that we focus more on equality, whereby the government, for example, provide the same amount of resources to be able to empower the people. But what about the equity, where we are talking about the topic whereby we need to include the BAME community, for example, here where I'm volunteering, whereby during the pandemic, and I believe we have seen also in the news whereby the BAME community did not have tech appliances, computers for their children to be able to get even lessons, and it was, in the beginning, it was okay for everyone until people start voicing out that, those families and those other people, they don't have technology just to attend classes. And then you saw immediately the government coming up with computers, with laptops, identifying families who do not have, that such technologies and giving them. And as we saw, the situation improved. So I would just say that equity, in other words, is an ability for us to diagnose the people or the individuals that need it, and then be able to bring them at the level where they'll be able to participate in things that, matter most.
So much, Antonio. And you have focused very well onto the inequalities and the gaps in technology and digital skills. Because when we, obviously, with the charity sector, we have seen it. And I really want to appreciate all those people who have supported the disadvantaged families, neurodiverse people to actually learn digital skills and be a part of this. As we are aware, census was digital online, and it was very, very difficult for most of the people to be online and fill that survey. Whereas we have Jen as well, Jennifer, who has participated in the census and who was like a backbone to run the census online as well. This leads me to my next question to Jennifer. Jennifer, you were a part of, and we were a part of Tech Up Women, from where I've met. And sometimes diversity is taken as, okay, let's hire women, so we are filled in. But what about the, background, how we are hiring women? Are we actually looking beyonder than the word woman? We talk about diverse women. Now, women are women. Diverse is something other than that. So why do we have labels being pulled on all of us? And especially because we participated in Tech Up Women, would you like to share your experience, your views on how women are categorized in the tech industry?
Yeah, I kind of get confused about all the labels also. It's, just being a decent human being can be so simple, and including everybody. To me, there always seems to be this idea that, power or resources, whatever the case may be, are finite. But really, it's a matter of opening up your platform to others and bringing them along for the ride. Fareeha, you might recall, I've still got that Post-it note right above my monitor that says, lift at least one woman every day. And that's what I tried. It's so simple. It could be just as simple as a compliment. It could be as simple as, have, offering her an ear and hearing her out, or, signposting her to some help, that sort of thing. And I think that when we get into a space where we're lifting one another, it's just win-win-win all around. And again, power, strength, courage, all that is not, it doesn't have to be finite. And Tech Up Women taught me quite a bit about that. I also learned that, as far as like all the labeling, categorization, and that sort of thing, it really does honestly make it much more complex than it has to be. And I think it kind of intimidates people from just thinking more holistically around diversity and inclusion initiatives and what they actually mean to other people who may feel otherwise marginalized. I mean, a lot of us within the protected characteristics didn't ask for any of this. We just born that way. And so, and just trying to be fair to everybody. Um, that's one piece of it. And accelerating, programs for folks within those protected characteristics to prove to them that they are in fact valuable, that they do in fact have something to contribute, that they are talented, are worthy, where otherwise, other systemic systems and societal systems tend to, just one second, nobody should be phoning me, where otherwise, these folks are pigeonholed, into these marginalized and disadvantaged groups in so many ways that other people can't advantage or can't imagine unless they actually live those.
For highlighting so many systemic disadvantages and pointing it out that yes, there is also a system as well that needs to be equal, diverse, and inclusive, not only us, though it is the responsibility of everyone. Because sometimes when you are an EDI lead or when you're working in equality, diversity, and inclusion, the onus comes to us that we should be talking about it only, whereas we at Dynamo believe that it is the responsibility of everyone and all of us to promote equality, diversity, and inclusion in whatever we do. Just to let the audience know as well, we have our polls as well, so please do take part. Our first poll is why diversity and inclusion is important in the present time. So we would like to hear your views as well. John, I would like to come back to you on the intersectionality. Is it just a concept? Is it just a word? Or do we really understand it?
I don't know why every time you pose a question, I feel like I need to write a presentation. They're really searching questions. I'm not sure again that I can answer that in a couple of minutes, but I think intersectionality of all of this. So my career has always been around building healthier communities, working in the public sector, adult social care and community development work, and then working in the corporate and commercial world, and creating healthier businesses there, so healthier communities. And I think we often get into silos. So we go, right, we're going to become more race aware. We're going to be an actively anti-racist organisation. We're going to promote the rights of LGBT and our community, plus in our community here, whatever it might be. And we get caught into these streams, and they're incredibly important. And we do need to understand them. And as Antonio said, we need to educate ourselves and think about them more. And as Annie said, we need to see ourselves reflected in all of these positions as well, and really get it. And you know, and as Jen said as well, change our systems so they develop and progressive and inclusive. But I do think that actually, if I go back to the mental health in the workplace agenda, it was that one team that was doing that in most organisations, and wellbeing team, and we had a diversity and inclusion team. And actually, the most progressive organisations are drawing those teams together and seeing this as one piece. That actually, if I feel psychologically safe at work, i.e., if I feel represented, understood, recognised, and that it's safe enough for me to make mistakes and step forward and come up with new ideas that challenge the system, then I'm in a good environment. And it's not about saying I'm the token person here for whatever identity is being covered off and boxes ticked. And the word that's often thrown around as well, as I think, is around having allies. So people that really understand that, and back to that education piece, people that are comfortable with some education and also comfortable to be curious. Try and learn as well. So as you were saying earlier, it's not down to an individual to try and not only go to work, and you know, talking to myself here, but I think I'm probably not the only human in the world that sometimes struggles at work and finds it a challenge. So not only am I trying to deliver on my day-to-day, I'm trying to manage myself as well. So compassionate kindness and an understanding, and all of that to me fits in intersectionality. So a bit of a rambling answer, but to answer what you say, yes, it is. It's the crux of everything.
Yes, thank you so much, John. And I think that you've covered up everything, because most of the time this word is, we just say this word, but as going back to what you said, do we really know about this? You know, do we really know what you're talking about? Because using bigger words is also, I see, it becomes a problem in equality, diversity, and inclusion. I would say try and use simple language, which everyone can understand, which everyone can relate to, because the people we are talking about may not understand these big words, but they might understand the simple language. And this, Annie, I would come back to you again on thing. We had this poll, you know, in our for our audience, why diversity and inclusion is important in the present time. And there's something that I put in there. It can free us from the danger of groupthink. Because we live in Northeast, because we're underrepresented, because there's less talk about equality, diversity, inclusion in this tech sector and in the other sectors, do you think we can be trapped into group thinking? And you are on mute.
But, can you just repeat that question again, Fareeha?
Yes. So is it like, can we be can we be captured into group thinking? Can we
Yeah.
fall into the trap of group thinking? Because
Yeah.
obviously, when you are underrepresented,
Yeah.
it's just like we have to say yes to all the ideas. We are very scared to even put our own ideas. And this is a danger to us, because if we are stuck into that, so I would explain it in much more easier way that, when political advisors at the highest levels want to be a part of the group, or they
Yeah.
want to be loyal to those in charge, they don't question anything. They say yes. And what it does, it hinders the diverse thinking. It hinders the
Yeah.
ideas and exchange, and it
Yeah.
hinders the political it hinders the open dialogue. Do you
Yeah.
think, in your experience throughout Northeast, have you experienced group thinking? Do you think that you could have fallen into this trap?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because even though now we use the terminology BAME and ethnic minorities in a way that just assume if you are not white, then you must be ethnic minorities, and fail to recognize, as you said, the diversity of the richness of our heritage, of our sexuality, of everything in it. But I guess it's still going back, isn't it? The kind of things is about, because our the diversity issue, probably people tend to relate it to the bigger city, to London, Birmingham, or Manchester, whatsoever, and it feels like kind of a topic that probably people don't talk about a lot in the northeast, and where I come from Northumberland as well, particularly comparatively, it's probably not as diverse as other part of the northeast and Yorkshire, which somewhere else there's a different kind of sort of population and mixed kind of thing. And I think it is about whether are we brave enough to be different? Are we brave enough to stand out and be counted as different? And how do you make sure that our voice may be small, but doesn't mean it's not strong and important, to be sort of kind of recognized? So are we all ready to stand up and being counted? So I think it is about a little bit kind of like a movement that we need to support each other. We need to build ourselves the confidence. It's okay to be different, and we can tell people we are different. I think going back to what Jan was talking about, if it's not there, then we won't deliver. And I think that probably in NHS anyway, at the moment, we're very much like hardwiring a lot of those things into our planning. So we now, all the hospital trusts need to provide a plan to tell us about how they're going to reduce the disciplinary gap between sort of white colleagues and non-white colleagues. How do you look at the promotions and retention and sort of making sure everyone have the opportunity? And I think it's probably forcing some of those issues actually to the surface. And obviously COVID is a very sort of obviously sad situation, but nevertheless it kind of shine a spotlight on all those diversity issues. Perhaps we haven't actually got the platform. So I think, well, let's make the most of what a very, very tragic, a very sort of sad and very, very sort of traumatic kind of situation for us all, and then how to we sort of kind of build on the momentum and make sure that we are different, but we are okay. And I think it is probably a journey rather than something that we can probably turn over. Now, I just recently sort of pick up running recently, and I'm also reflecting on some of the things that I hear, and I'm thinking, well, this is definitely not a marathon, not a sprint, but it is a long run. So I think we are sort of at that sort of territory, possibly.
That's great. Thank you so much, Annie. And I think obviously we did put a poll, and I would ask all our panel members as well. Are we looking, so this and that, do you feel diversity in thinking? Would you choose diversity in thinking or diversity in visuals? Because I think it is very important now we understand, because as Annie was saying, we live in Northeast. We have small population of ethnically diverse communities. We have less talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion in this region. Should we be diverse? But one thing that is in our control in Northeast is to have a diverse thinking. Now, to have a diverse thinking, I don't believe that we should have people planted in with colors and people planted in with protected characteristics to let us know we can be diverse, we can make and educate our children diverse as well. So I'll go to Jennifer. What do you think about diversity in thinking or diversity in visuals?
Thinking, absolutely. Especially, well, I mean, in tech with the digital skills gap, I think we've been kind of forced into, in some aspects, into accepting, diversity and inclusion. Annie in chat, to scaffold on what you were saying earlier, as far as like our workforce needs to reflect the people that we serve. And certainly our customer base is increasingly diversified. How many women are making the financial decisions behind, the services and everything that we have to offer? There are many women who are holding the purse strings, if you will, but not, a lot of marketing or anything, geared towards that particular segment. But also it's not just having the courage, I think, to be different, but it's also some part having that safe space to be different in as well. Because I mean, especially among creative groups and everything, where you do collaborate, you do come up with the best solution as a group. If people aren't comfortable in opening up and sharing their ideas and things like that, that collaboration is not going to happen.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Antonio, I would like to take your views on that.
Yeah, myself, I believe both are important. Both diversity in thinking and diversity in visual. But I think from my point of view, it has to start with diversity in thinking, because as a man thinks, so is he. If we think differently, that no, I can accommodate, I'm willing to integrate and being welcome, then immediately I think automatically our diversity in visual steps up, and I believe it's not the other way around, because sometimes when we may say we want to have diverse in visual, trying to, having diverse people in different organizations or different settings that we have. But most of the time, as you know, we may put diversity there, but it's just to cover up, just to be able to say, whenever they need recruitment or whatever it is, or there's an organization that you need to represent, and that person also always diversity sent out. But actually, at the back of our mind, we are not really, we have not really understood, or there is no diversity change in our organization. So I believe the important thing is in thinking, and as we start thinking diverse, then the visuals actually will start happening. And it's all about the next generation. We must be able to just put a way forward, a map, create a roadmap for the next generation, and I believe that things will improve. The best is yet to come. Yeah.
To John, and no theoretical answers. I don't feel like that. But also, while you said it's a question in our panel, there's a question for us as well from Charlie. If this is a long race, as Annie says, what does the panel think is the best way to educate our children in diverse thinking?
Okay, to the first point, I think very simply, I'd build on Antonio's point and say, I think both. I think we need our thinking there. We need to educate. We need people to understand, but to do that as well, so we don't start to just see people as other that we're learning about. We need to also see the visual representation as well. And I would suggest that there's another element in there, which is opportunity. So we need diversity of opportunity. We need to create spaces where I can not only learn about people in an intellectual sense and their experience and their frame of reference, their ways of being, but also put myself in positions where potentially it's a bit uncomfortable, but I'm learning, and to see that as a positive as well. So I think it's not just the intellectual, it's the visual and the opportunity. To Charlie's point, I think it's great. So back to sort of at the beginning of when I was saying around, there was all these solidarity statements. We had some wonderful conversations at home, but a lot of that was stimulated by our children. We've got 4 young people in my family directly that are kids, and they brought a lot of these subjects and they explored it with us as well. And then when I look at some of the younger ones and interacting with some of the elders in the family as well, it was a really rich conversation that, again, at times, I was going to say around the dinner table, but it wasn't. It was around the Zoom screen that actually it got a little bit uncomfortable. But I think that's where we sit with. We teach our children about love, about compassion, about thoughtfulness. We teach our children to be the greatest version of themselves, and that we'll be there wrapped around them or standing behind them or standing in front of them if we need to. And I think it's that if we embody that as a value, then all of this slots into place. Start to value yourself and start to see that value in others, and that curiosity is what it comes back to for me. So I think let's start it in school. We have to make sure that we continue it at home and in our communities. We have to make sure it's represented in all of our education systems, and then we see it in our institutions, our businesses and our organisations. I think the last point for me on the visual one, I love the fact that, you know, every advert now, from buying a service through to I don't know, going to a supermarket, has lots of visually different people in there, and that's happened quite quickly. The piece for me is now, what do we do afterwards? And I think that's what comes back to your question. So how long are we going to continue doing that without the education piece, the understanding piece that sits behind it? Because where I live in the southeast, I can go to my supermarket and I'm probably the darkest skin-toned person there. So I don't see the advert represented in my community. So I need to start to understand it if this is a new agenda for me.
That's great. Thank you so much, John. And obviously we're very, so Annie, would you like to wrap it up on your views on diversity in thinking or diversity in visuals?
I think to me, the food for thought is very much about by example. We need to do that as part of our daily life. Don't stop learning about the equality and diversity ourselves. Don't be afraid to speak out, and don't be afraid to be different.
Thank you so much, Annie. And as I think all our panel, I really want to thank you all for your wonderful contributions, your insight, and I think very thought-provoking ideas and thought-provoking discussions around intersectionality, ethnic diversities, in diversity in thinking, and then leading on to diversity in visuals, and not just keeping it as an agenda for some time, but also making it a boardroom discussion and keep it going. Obviously, what I've noticed that all of the people, and we all say we are different, but we are equal. And that same difference binds us together. If we are not different, if we are talking the same thing, I think then we are also doing the group thinking, which I was explaining before. So yes, we are different, we are equal, we are not the same, and that same difference binds us together. Thank you so much. And before we go today, I really would like you to, all of you and our audience who are hearing us today, to think about equality, diversity, and inclusion in a human perspective. This is not a rocket science that we're discussing here. Yes, tech leads the way in a challenging world, but even this is not a technical thing. It has been there from ages, from the time humans are born. It is just that we have gone so much into complex language, in so much, we are so interested in a race that we are all following, that we have forgotten the values we are born with. And that is what is equality, diversity, and inclusion. Try and love each other around you. Try and be empathetic, be kind, be generous. And you will see, you don't even have to do anything. As the recipe from John, it will happen. So, so there is the recipe that you create, and this is the recipe that we've all created today. I am really hopeful that the people who have joined us today as the audience and the panel are taking something from here today, something to think about. In the last but not the least, Dynamo Northeast has also launched another second survey and the second phase of our initial findings. And this time we have named as Think Northeast, because we would like the Northeast people to come forward, fill in the survey, let us know how do they feel about equality, diversity, and inclusion. It's not only me and Dynamo, it's all of us. And I'm very hopeful that with Think Northeast, we would be able to question our unconscious biasness, the way we think about equality and diversity, and there's nothing wrong to accept that we are in a learning process. So thank you very much. Don't forget to fill in the survey. You would see in the chat panel as well. Thank you so much for all these questions. We have Charlie here again. So Charlie, any food for thought or anything that you would like to end up with?
Oh my goodness, there's so much there. I mean, even just my question about kids, and already I'm being encouraged to be a school governor. Thank you. Yeah, learn from a very young age. And I also think there's a really nice point that Jen said there about lift at least one woman a day, lift at least one person a day, go do it. It makes everybody feel better. Thank you so much, Fareeha Usman. And to the rest of the panel, we have Jennifer Callan there, John Madden, Annie Topping, Antonio Sangunji. Brilliant, just brilliant. Thank you.